Nate Silver, who everybody loves this guy, right? He predicted the last election. He's a big numbers guy who now is part of ESPN. He's doing sports. He got out of the political world, basically, and he's doing sports. But he did have some interesting thoughts on 2014, basically that the Republicans are going to win back the Senate, which is a scary, scary thought. Oh, we've got a bunch of quotes, actually. We think the Republicans are now slight favorites to win at least 6 seats and capture the chamber. The Democrats' position has deteriorated somewhat since last summer, with President Obama's approval ratings down to 42 or 43%, which is down from about 45%. And as compared with 2010 or 2012, the GOP has done a better job of recruiting credible candidates, with some exceptions. Okay, so Silver does urge some caution there. These aren't, mind-blowing numbers that Republicans are automatically going to win, but it is sort of interesting. And what I sort of glean into this is that this is an Obamacare thing, that the Republicans have sort of won the messaging somehow on that we can't have socialized medicine and not everyone has a right to healthcare and all that. Do you think that's what this is about, that they've somehow scared enough people to think they have to be voting for them?
Oh, definitely. I think the people are, oh my God, my healthcare changed. It might get canceled. People don't know what's going on, what's happening. People don't even know what's in their healthcare plan until they get sick. Mm-hmm. So everybody's running scared, everybody's running afraid. But Nate Silver, I think the Democrats way overreacted to this, right? Because he's not saying that's going to happen. He said there's a slight chance that might happen.
But that's how much stock people put in what he said.
Because of what happened last time with Romney. But don't forget that Nate Silver was wrong in 2010, I think, when he predicted that the Democrats would lose again the Senate, and they ended up gaining seats. Yeah. So he's not always correct.
Yeah. So, that is a good point. Nobody's always correct. Yeah. And of course, these number guys, that's why he's working for ESPN now. It's a lot easier dealing with sports numbers than political numbers. But what I was thinking about this was that the Republicans, as far as I can tell, have no particular message other than everything's against Obama. So is anyone fired up for the Republicans? That's what I think is interesting here. People are saying we're going to vote for the Republicans in 2014. But is anyone actually voting for them, or are they just voting against Obama?
I think this happens a lot with midterm elections. People do tend to vote against what the current status quo is. And the Republicans do have a strong message in attaching their horse and carriage to the Affordable Care Act. They do have a lot of messaging that they can use. And Nate wasn't wrong in predicting, and he was actually, I think, maybe dead on in predicting that 2014 we might see Republicans take over the Senate. The good thing that this does for the Democrats, though, and you'll already see this happening, they can take this messaging and they can use it to raise funds and fund these campaigns. But we do have about 10 Senate races that are really important for the Republicans, really important for the Democrats. We have Democrats who are stepping down. South Dakota is an example. You've got Senator Johnson, who is retiring, and you've got a really popular former governor running in that state. Mike Rounds could take over that seat. That gives you a Republican. North Carolina is going to be an interesting race. Kay Hagan won that Senate seat from Elizabeth Dole back in 2008 when North Carolina was a blue state for the first time in my lifetime. Yeah. And it went back to red in 2012. So Kay Hagan is going to have a tough race. Looks like Tom Tillis is going to be maybe one of the best possible candidates, Speaker of the House there in North Carolina. Yeah. There are some people who are it's a risk for some of the Democrats, but that's what happens in midterm elections. We've seen it. History repeats itself. We've seen it over and over again, and I think Nate was actually making kind of a safe prediction in suggesting that it might happen.
Interesting. So do you think this sort of shows the strength of our democracy in a weird way, that in the midterms we do often vote against the incumbent president because it is a little bit of check of powers, which we seem to have completely lost?
In normal times, I would say yes. But I would say that the Republican Party has gone so far off the rails that now the Democrats are Republicans, and so we're not actually getting so as far as a government that's representative of the people's will, we certainly don't have that right now at all. I don't think. I mean, look, 90% of the people wanted gun restrictions and gun legislation. It didn't happen. What does that mean? That means that our government, we're like it's a banana republic, It's like they're only serving their donors. They're not serving us.
Which means that what we really need is a different kind of campaign financing. I come back to this all the time when it comes to politics.
Yeah, so campaign finance, which we talk, everything we do here at the Young Turks is about money in politics and who's bought and sold. Why do we not even have any discussion about campaign finance anymore. We used to have that McCain-Feingold thing. What happened? That thing disappeared, and now it literally is not in the news anywhere.
Because the people who are supposed to be talking about it is the media, right? The fourth estate, right? And they're not talking about it because the people who pay their salary and sign their checks want to have influence in politics. They now work for these major corporations. For instance, right, so Brian Williams and David Gregory, they work for General Electric, a major defense contractor. They, of course, want to have influence on the government, so they're not going to go on their news show and say, hey, we got to get, what we're doing is horrible. We have to get rid of it. And by the way, the Iraq war is bullshit, and we profited off of it. So they're not going to do any of that, and that's the problem. The people, the criminals bought the news media after they bought the Congress. So now there's no watchdog anymore, and that's why the only people talking about it is us.
Yeah, well, okay, so then speaking of us, is the online news thing, now we're slightly off of where we started here, but is the online news thing, just to wrap this all up, are we the only estate that's left that can stop this thing?
I hope so, because if you really look at the way the world is working, especially this younger generation, that's where we're getting our news. We're looking to the people online to inform us and talk to us. And if we as an online community end up getting more attention, then ultimately, don't they have to follow suit? Doesn't mainstream media have to follow suit? It's terrifying to think about now because of the when the Supreme Court overturned campaign financing and we created all these super PACs, it was basically like money laundering for campaign finance. And it's difficult to discuss it now because you have to dig in a different way, dig really deeply to find out who is financing what and how and whom.
Well said, and I can promise you guys that we're not bought and sold. And don't trust the Democrats, don't trust the Republicans, trust yourself. Okay.